Hi and welcome. It's Jenny McCormac from Gemini Crafts. Thank you so much for joining me. I've had a lot of requests to show you how I created this shadow box frame, which is lit. If I turn my lights down, you might be able to see it a little bit better. Let's turn that one off as well. So it's a lit shadow box frame, and I just used a frame from a local craft supply store and added the lights behind of this particular scene and then add scene details in front. So what I wanted to show you really was how the mechanism works. There is a separate little battery pack with these particular lights, so you do want LED fairy lights with a fairly small battery pack that can fit on the back of here, just with some glue dots or some dimensional, so you can turn it on and off on the outside. Right, let me put my lights back on. And basically this is to show you not necessarily the whole scene, but how I put the different layers together and how I added the lights in. So you could use this for all sorts of scenes. Obviously it's perfect for a winter scene. And I've used Yuletide village for my little village scene here. And then I've used the Forever Evergreens in the background, and I've used some of our winter papers for the background as well. But you could obviously do as many layers as you want, and you can also add embossed layers. You could colour in your village, you could change the scene altogether, you could have the deer from Reindeer Fun, all sorts of combinations. So what I want to show you is basically how to roughly put it together. So I have got some pre-stamped trees that I did earlier. I've got a little scene here, and basically you could stamp individual ones and cut them out, or you could fussy cut around this, or you could just sort of do a torn piece behind. I've got some different layers here. I've added the church in on this one, so basically plenty to work with. And then I die cut some of the stamped trees, so I've got some smaller ones here, and then the medium and the larger ones, all from that set. So the shadow box frame I'm using is one like this. I think this is 18 centimeters, and when you take the back out, it's got a piece of acrylic, and then it's got the gap here, so you could layer this up quite deeply if you wished. And then it's got the piece that sits on the back, and these pieces fold in. So what we're going to do is I've cut a piece of thin white card, and this is going to be the back of my scene, and this is actually in this case 7 inches wide. This is 7 by 7. It's going to fit in the frame. And then I've just got a choice of some of those lovely papers, so you could really change the scene of this. So you could have this one here with the deer. You could still put houses in front of it and cover up the deer, or you could add and stamp and die cut the deer. And then I've got this one here that I've stamped in some additional trees, and I don't know if you can see, not sure whether the camera will pick it up, but one of the ladies, actually it was one of the team members I think, added some ink to this to make it look like the Northern Lights. It's quite light because we were just having a practice, but it's quite effective. I'm not sure that you'll see much of it. I think you can just see a little bit of this pink and green showing here. But you could really use any background scene. Obviously I've chosen a Christmassy scene, and then you've also got, you could have a change in colour for this one, or you could just have a plain sky. You don't have to have any other detail at all if you don't want. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to do a different one. I'm going to use this one here, I think. I'm not quite sure, but it will serve for the purposes that we need. I've stamped these in Misty Moonlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this to the sheet behind, and the reason for that is just to give it a little bit of substance, because we're going to attach the lights behind. Now what you don't want is anything too thick. You could put it onto a piece of vellum, that would be good too, because if you use a very dark piece of paper and card, you won't see the lights behind. So this is how the lights come in this particular case. I'm just going to unwrap this like so, trying not to tangle it too much. Just easier said than done sometimes. Okay, this is 1 metre long. I think there are 10 lights in total. So if you have 3 rows of lights, you've basically got 3 on each and then a spare one as a rough indicator. So we're going to unhook all of that, and what you want to do is obviously test the lights before you put the whole thing together. And if you want to see the different effect, is you can just pop some of the lights behind your scene. So if I just sort of fold that over, let me turn these lights down. Not going to turn them off altogether, but enough hopefully you to see the difference. Perhaps I will need to do that. No, that doesn't help you, does it? Okay, so if you can see there, if I put the lights behind, you can spotlight different areas of the background. And if you change the scene, you'll get a different effect. So if I choose this one, for example, and then put some of the lights behind, you'll get a different effect. And I appreciate you can't see all of that detail. But just one thing to note is you don't want your piece too dark. So you wouldn't want to put this on to Night of Navy, for example, or you'll completely obliterate the scene behind. So let's go for this one. So all I'm going to do is start by attaching that onto our piece of paper, and the main purpose for that is just to give it some strength. That's the word I want. So I'm just going to put that up. Now I've used this, which is 6 inches high, because I've cut my designer series paper in half for the class. But the bottom bit is going to be hidden, and you also need to remember that we've got this edge here. So although we're doing it 7 by 7 effectively, you are going to lose a centimetre or ½ an inch or so around each of those edges, but you want the scene to go behind. You don't want it to stop and then have a gap. So having got this attached, what we're going to do is just start by putting some of these lights on the background, and we're just going to use some tape. Now if you've got a particular scene, you might want to highlight, for example, in front of a section or by some trees. You don't need to go right up into the corner, because as I said before, that will be hidden. And also, if you only use paper, if you've got quite bright lights, you can sometimes see not so much the tape, but if you use dimensionals, for example, you might be able to see those through. So I know you can't see that particularly well. Let me just turn those off. So if the camera will sort itself out, you can see I've got the lights going on here in the background. Okay. So let's put another one here. Sorry about that noise in the background, that's my dog digging to Australia, I think. Okay, so this is just to keep the wires in place, nothing more than that. I don't want it sort of pinging out. So I've got some lights behind that level, and then what we're going to do is basically bring this around to the front, because this wire is so thin it will sit in there nicely. Bring this round one layer like so and attach it, and then we can build our frame picture in front of it. Now it doesn't really matter what order you do that, other than I would start with your backing piece. Maybe I'll bring that round a little bit to there, like so. Now you can turn this off to conserve your batteries, of course, and you can see where each of these little ones is. So what I'm going to do now is my next layer, and you can again fix this onto your backing, because we're going to cover this up. Now what you can do, if you're quite clever, is if you had a particular scene, for example, is you could position some of the lights behind the windows, especially if you use the church at one side. You could have the lights in the top window of the church, and you can colour these all in. As I say, you can have deer, you can have all sorts. It's really up to you how you put the scene together. This video is really just to show you the mechanics of how I did the layering. So what I'm going to do is just pop some of these down, and again I'm just going to use a little bit of tape. That's mainly because I don't want them sort of pinging up. So I purchased these lights from a very well-known online retailer, and I don't know if they're readily available, so I will post a link in the YouTube description. So I've got 1, 2, and then my third one I'm going to bring round here like so. And when you put your layers together, obviously you can layer those with dimensionals. Okay, so I've got 3 there. Let's put that light on to see. Oh, there we go. Lift that up for you. Okay, if you've got the old set of penguins that we had that were skiing and sledging, they'd be rather good fun. So I'm going to bring these round here, and I know that I should have got 1, 2, 3, 4 left, I think. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on the back. So I'm going to bring this round here, and I can choose to put another layer on and then put these on top of that layer. What you don't want to do is have, for example, let's see if I can do this, have that layer and then lots of trees behind it. I am exaggerating slightly, that cover up the bulbs behind here. Otherwise you're just not going to see them between 2 layers of card. Does that make sense? So you really want any of the lights only behind 1 layer. You could use vellum. Just watch out that sometimes you can see the vellum behind the lights. So I think what I'm going to do is, before I put any more down, so I'm going to put my layer across the bottom, and let's see what I've got that I might use. You want to look at the scale of your design here. So because I've got these trees and things in the background, I don't want huge houses right in the front. What I might do is take some of these, and what I did for my sample was I stamped a line of them. This is the same stamp, as you can see, right the way through, but the Yuletide Village does work particularly well for this. So I stamped a line of them, and then you can fussy cut just around the tops. Sadly, there's no dies for this set. It would have been a perfect set for dies, but there we go, that's the way it goes. It's a very nice stamp set. It's been very popular. I think I probably sold more of this set than anything else, I think, from our September to December catalogue. Okay. This is not a masterpiece in fussy cutting. I just want to show you the effect, really. And obviously you can have individual ones, but just watch out for any thickness of layers. And you can come right down here. You could cut that apart if you wanted to. That's what I'm going to do. So I've got a row of 4 here. Just going to cut those out. Sorry it's taken me a while to get this video together. I had loaned out the stamps for a local team member for their class, and then I had a stinking cold, so you wouldn't have understood much of what I was saying, so I had to wait for that to pass. Okay. You could add Winker Stella across here on your snow. You could colour your houses and things in. And I'm going to add some of these trees. So I've stamped this actually Misty Moonlight. And because of the scale of these, I'm going to use these small trees. So I think what I'm going to do, and bear in mind you lose the very bottom of this piece. I might just move that over. Could add a little bit on here, and yeah, the scale's far too big, isn't it? So I'm going to stick with these elements here. But what you can do for the piece behind is just tear a piece of white card. If you've got white glimmer card, of course this would work perfect for a little snow thing going on. So I'm just going to tear this. This isn't cut to size at all, but what I'm going to do is pop that here, so that will cover up. Seems a shame actually to cover up so many of those. That pretty scene, but I'm going to pop that one on there, and then I'm going to layer these up. Now I can put this through the Snowfall embossing folder, or Gently Falling, any of those, or you could stamp on this. You could stamp distant trees, all sorts of things, basically the whatever number of layers you want. In this particular sample I had my front layer, I added some trees behind, and then a snow layer behind that, and then just the background. So I just want to going to cover those up, and then bring round my lights to the other edge. So just be careful if you haven't pre-cut your piece not to cut through your wires. So this is 7 centimetres, 7 inches, I beg your pardon. So I'm just going to cut that to size with the trimmer. As I said, you could certainly put this through embossing folders, you could stamp a design on it. Basically what you want to do is make sure you're covering up the wires here. And if you think, oh, it's a little bit high, just move it down, add a little bit of tape. Just going to do that one there. Okay, so this piece is going to be placed on there. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is use dimensionals to support this, so it's not sort of too up and down over the back of that. You could use dimensional strips if you prefer, and what I'm actually going to do is just put them, don't normally put them on the backing, but it's going to have them to support this layer, like so. I know the bottom is just a little way up from there, so just supporting that around the edge. Now once it's in the frame, it's not going to be handled anyway, but I could put some support here and here. Okay, check the lights again before you do the next layer. Happy with that? Okay, so I can put this layer down, just remove the backings, and also you can take a lot more time over your layers. You can have 3 completely stamped layers if you want. The main thing is to put your first layer behind and then work towards the front. So, and you could add a big Christmas sentiment across the bottom if you wanted to. Sorry. Okay, let's pop this on, covering that one, covering that, just making sure that there's no wires sticking up over the top. It's a little bit close to that one. Just going to push that in a little bit, like so. Make sure I haven't done anything. There we go. And then we're going to add our front layer to that. So bear in mind this bottom bit is going to be hidden at the bottom of the frame. So what I might do is just going to have a look at this. I just cut this extra piece. I haven't got the dies because they're out on loan again to another team member, so let's just cut this. And then all I'm going to do is bring those wires around again and make sure they are tucked in behind these layers. I think if you had a layer stamped in vellum, that would look really effective. as I say, definitely not a lesson in fussy cutting. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is bring this layer round. And again, you can be very strategic about where you place your lights. I'm just doing this for the purpose of showing you the design. So bring that one there. And take as long as you want, and obviously you can use a longer set of lights, 1.5 meters. What you want to look for really is the number of bulbs that you've got. So this is 10 bulbs. Okay, let's do that. And that. And what's quite nice is, because this is effectively a standalone piece, you can take this piece out of your frame, obviously complete with your lights, tuck it away, and then get it out next year. Okay, so I can add my trees, and I'm obviously hiding the wires as I go along, like so. And I've still got two lights. Yeah, 2 lights here. So I can bring these round to the front. So I'm going to pop these on. You might want to use small dimensionals when you're doing these smaller areas, but just for speed, I would do it this way. And I don't have to worry about going right to the end. This one is still poking out a little bit. So that's going to go there. So have a play. If you get a particular scene that you like, my recommendation is that you just take a quick photograph of it. Because you think like me, you do that and then you move things around and then you can't remember the original. But obviously, as I say, you can decorate your scene here. You could use anything else. Just going to sort of have that there. So I'm going to put the lights on. I know you can't see it in detail, but it's behind this house here and also behind the tree. There we go. So I'm going to pop just going to pop the end of that tree on there in a minute, and then add some trees at the bottom here. She says yes. Okay, let's pop this last piece down here. So it doesn't look particularly pretty behind the scenes. I will lift it up so you can see. And then I know I've got another one left there. But I also want to make sure that my cable comes out to one side, with the thin end of the wire coming out the edge of the frame. So let's put that like that. So I'm just going to lift this up so you can see it. Doesn't look particularly pretty. So this is the wire coming around here. So I've got it tucked behind the houses here. So I just put that on. You'll see that. and then I'm going to put another layer in front of that. The main thing is that you only have one layer in front of each of the lights, otherwise, as I say, you just won't see the backings. I'm going to pop that one on there, I think. Just support that, like so. So I've just got those dimensionals again. I've got trees on there. I can colour those in, obviously. So I've got a light here and a light down here. So just going to put some supporting dimensionals here. But obviously you can have three rows of houses. Dear me, sorry. Okay, I've got another one there, and what I might do, I've got some more here, just fussy cut some in there. I can leave the bottom bit actually. I just stamped a number that I thought was going to be enough, but I added a lot more of the larger trees, which of course I haven't now used. Okay. But you could add the snowman in, whatever you want in the front. So there's my light. I don't want to cover too much of that up. So I'll just put it like that. It will do for the purposes of showing you. So basically behind the first layer, and then bring the wires down, pop your layer on, bring them round, put another layer on, and depending on how many you've got to play with, just keep that going. Put that on there. Okay, not my best scene, and obviously you can use blending brushes for your sky, all sorts of things, and I will put another piece of white on the bottom, but let me show you how that goes on. And you can obviously add bling to this as well. Winker Stella up in the background here. So let's take the backing off. Pop this in, and it's just going to sit on this piece here. Okay, make sure your wire is coming out where it's the thin bit of wire. Make sure I've got it the right way around. Add this, close the 4 pieces. I'll just do 2 for the time being. And there is our frame with our scene. Now what I am going to do is put another piece across the front that I'm going to tear. I might just do that quickly, just to cover up the gaps that I've got left. There we go. And I don't want to cover too much of what I've got there because I don't want to lose the light, but just enough to cover that up on either side. Let me trim that to size. And you can scale this up. Obviously, if you've got a large frame, you could make that much bigger. Do a 12 by 12 frame if you wished. Just cut this to size. So mine is 7 inches or 18 centimetres, give or take. So this is just going to go on here. Not quite sure which way around I'm going to have that. Maybe like that, I think. Just going to mark that with a pencil of some kind. Just to get it roughly in place. There we go. So I hadn't, as you can see, I hadn't planned the design, but the main thing is that everyone was asking me how it was done. So it's a general, this is how I did it video. And again, stamp on this piece, run it through an embossing folder, add Wink of Stella, whatever you want. So I'm just going to add that layer on the bottom. Just going to put dimensionals in those gaps. And I've got some useful strips here. So I hope this has been useful. And that you give it a go. Let's put that there. It's really just for support, nothing more than that. Put the backing sort of here. Put that on the top. Check that my lights are all still working, which they are. And now I can put it back in my frame. You could put another backing on there if you wanted to hold that all in place. There we go. Fold those over. I've lost my voice today. Let's pop the lights on so you can see it. Hopefully the light will adjust on my camera. Thank you, camera. So we've got some little lights in the background, and then we've got the other lights underneath here. They're all hidden out of view, but hopefully you can see the effect. I think the light is trying to compensate a little bit, so I apologise for that, but I will try and photograph it as is. Maybe that's a little bit better. So you can see the scene. I've got 3 layers going on there, well 4 effectively, 1, 2, 3, 4. This was another design. As I say, this one uses the trees from Yuletide Village and the church. Just remember that this front sort of ½ inch in this particular case is covered up. You could take that panel out if you wanted to, and then what I would do is just attach the battery pack with some glue dots on the back here so it's not hanging around, and then you can just turn it on and off. And these have replaceable batteries. They're button batteries, C2032s I think, so you can just replenish those as you need. So I hope that's been useful. Apologies, as I say, for the delay. I know everybody was asking about how they were done. So I did this originally for a team event, and then subsequent to that I did that at an all-day craft event that I run with one of my lovely team members, Sam. Apologies for that reflection on this one here. So there we go. I hope that's been useful. Do take care. Any questions, you can email me, jenny@jeminicrafts.co.uk, or pop a comment in, and I will get back to you. Thank you so much. Bye for now.